Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Enlightenment. Today we're going to be teaching about Jesus' sacrifice. But before I get into that, take a few seconds of your time to go ahead and like, subscribe, maybe leave me some feedback in the comment section. More videos like these. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So we're going to be looking specifically at Romans chapter 3. And right now we're going to begin with verses 1 through 20. Just a few points, not a whole point of every verse. But what we're going to do is summarize and say, the Jews were given a special gift, God's words and covenants. God remained faithful to the Mount Sinai covenant. The Jews failed to remain faithful to that covenant. Human unfaithfulness did not stop or cancel God's plan. Possessing the Mount Sinai covenant did not give the Jews an advantage over sin. This is very interesting when you point out these different points here. I could have read it to you guys, but it would have taken an ample amount of time. So I would highly recommend that you read Romans chapter 3 in its entirety. But coming back to the class, what I would like to say is, it's amazing how God continues to be faithful even when we're not. It's amazing how God says something that he intends to do, and he indeed does it. Even when we think he's taking too long, he's working on it. Because he's not someone that says something and lets it leave his lips so that it's undone. Remember what Jesus said on the cross? It is finished. It's always his intent, as he is very intentional, to make sure that what has been spoken is seen and comes to pass. And that's not based on you. That's why we can't live as though we've done enough. And we can never work to be saved. It really is paid for on the cross by Jesus, who did it all. As I said before, he says it is finished. So therefore, when we put our trust in him, that is how we're made new and righteous with God. Because many things we say, well, we don't always do them. Sometimes we're faithful and sometimes we're not. We can't trust in ourselves. There is no scale to say that my good outweighs my bad or my bad outweighs my good. If you are following the law, breaking one law is enough to disqualify you. Imagine yourself as a regular citizen. You do one thing wrong and now we all think of you as whatever it is you did. And yet for how many years have you lived in this country and never did anything wrong? And all it took was how many seconds? 5 seconds, maybe 10, maybe a minute. Now you're spending the rest of your life in prison. So think about this spiritually. It doesn't take much for us to unalign ourselves with God. So remember what I said? He's faithful. Remember what I also said? Human unfaithfulness did not stop or cancel God's plan. Even with the actions of others, God's still doing the thing that he intended to do. How many times we intended to do something and someone's actions either stopped us, maybe for the best, or it stopped us and maybe for the worse. And having certain information, the Jews thought we have an advantage now. Not realizing that when God revealed what he revealed to them, it was to show them how much they needed him. Not so that they could look at the book and say, we could master these. Not at all. Let's continue with verses 21 through 31. As a matter of fact, that is the end of the class. It's a pretty short class today, guys, but I hope you take a lot from it. So here are a few points that I have. Humans cannot overcome the power of sin simply by trying to obey God. Right. Because it's about putting our trust in Jesus. Because of sin, humanity's relationship with God is broken. Remember the garden? It wasn't just that Adam listened to his wife when he was left in charge by God. Imagine you had a friend and you told him he's responsible, but you also left him a helper, and he allowed the helper to swindle him into doing things a little differently with your home. You come home and you find a mess, and you say, "What happened?" And here he is to say, "Well, the helper that you gave me messed me up." That's not a response. The best response would be to say, "Well, I should have listened to you, but I listened to them. If you could find in your heart, please forgive me." So imagine how God must feel when Adam says to him, "The woman that you gave me," instead of just simply acknowledging that he was wrong. We always like to blame shift. Jesus' sacrifice, not just Jesus' sacrifice, but his life to deal with sin and to free people from its power. Look at the life that he lived. Look at the examples that he demonstrated, a way that most of us don't recognize. We practically would call it alien. If there was anyone that was more alien than anyone else, it would be Jesus Christ. Because he lived in such a way that we don't normally recognize. It's in such a maturity that we don't normally understand. Pray for your enemies. Why would I do that? My nature disagrees. But it is the best when you really deduce it down to its decimal. Anyone who believes that Jesus did this for them is made right with God. Remember what Jesus said? He said, "I am the truth, the life, and the way. No man comes to the Father but through me." Through faith, people are freed from being slaves to sin. So all in all, guys, today's class was about me reminding you, as a fellow believer, that Jesus' sacrifice paid it all. Knowledge and wisdom, though they are powerful, they are nothing like what Jesus did on that cross. But if you couple the belief in knowing that he did that for you with the knowledge and wisdom, well, then you will see that they are more sufficient as you tender into this relationship. So don't just try to do it by yourself. Do it with God. You guys have a blessed day. Thanks for coming to see me. Light.